Welcome back. I'm Dick Tillman. I'm on the Conference Programs Committee, and we are ready for our second session. Again, thank you for attending this year's 2021 CSI North Central Region Conference. Our next presentation is New Architectural Wood Casework Standards by Doug Hague with AWI. Doug is a self-proclaimed wood nerd, in all caps, according to the bio that he sent me. His passion was created at an early age with a 4-H project, which led to multiple high school projects. He furthered his woodworking knowledge with a degree in wood technology from Pittsburgh State University. After spending 4 years in the industry as an estimator, project manager, engineer, and CNC programmer, he returned to school to pursue a master's with the intent to be a wood technology professor. Doug was fortunate enough to be a professor at Pittsburgh State for 9 great years, involved in all aspects of the 4-year curriculum. In 2016, he joined AWI as Director of Education. While similar to serving the industry at the university level, this opportunity garnered more experience of the entire process at a granular level. In January 2020, Doug was selected to become AWI's Executive Vice President. While the job is enormous, Doug takes pride and finds it very humbling to serve the industry he loves. Doug is excited to be here this morning to talk about the new AWI Casework standards and how they create opportunity for collaboration between the design community and the manufacturer to provide the client with a final product that serves their needs. So please listen closely for the next 60 minutes or so, and welcome Doug Hague to the stage. Doug, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Dick, and thank you, everybody, for being in attendance this morning. I was excited for the opportunity to speak to some good old Midwesterners. You are a group that can relate to if I say I got to be done before supper time, or if I am out and say I'd like to order a pop. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I know we have some people from St. Louis who are probably still calling it soda, but I've enjoyed interacting with this group on the setup side of things. On the other side, we have hosted virtual events. And so I want to say thank you to the organizers, because I know the amount of work and effort that goes into these things. And so, yes, Zoom fatigue is real, but I will ask for your participation during these next 60 minutes and that we make the most of our time together so that learning can take place. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it here, and we're going to get this thing started. We're also going to be more flexible and fluid because of the audience that I'm speaking to. If you have questions tailored to specifiers or the design community specifically, I want to speak to you directly today and not necessarily do the canned approach. You as specifiers, you probably get this better than anyone, is that everybody has their own ideas or their own intent in their minds, but it's getting it on paper and executing it per all the parties involved, and so that we are all speaking the same language. AWI has been founding of the Architectural Wood Institute quality standards, and then you have seen it since 1961 as it progresses all the way through all of these. And so for those of you who have been in the industry for a while, you're probably going, I remember that one, etc. And then here we switch to the AWS2. So we were Quality Illustrated Standards. And then in 2009, switched to the AWS1. And then in 2014, we rolled out the AWS2, which is what we abbreviate AWS2 all the time, is actually Architectural Woodwork Standards 2nd edition. So where does that bring us today? Well, in 2014-15, the board said, hey, we're listening to the design community, and the recognized way to go now is ISO and ANSI. And so the AWI board elected at that time to leave their prescriptive standard and start working towards a performance standard. And so we ask why. Well, thankfully, I'm speaking to an audience who understands ANSI standards, that they are public consensus. There is a process that's very transparent, and that it involves all aspects of people and parties involved during the development phase, rather than just an elect group within an association. So the last word in here, I'll talk about innovation. I use that one over and over as to why we appreciate the ANSI standard that is performance-based. Here is what AWI is, being a standard development organization, or an SDO. We go through all of these lists with all of our standards. So the technical committee reviews them. We develop a Canvas list. This is the public aspect. It goes out. We conduct the Canvas, which is public comment and public voting. And then it actually, should we get a passing vote, then it goes through an ANSI audit, then it is approved. Here are the first two on top are our two ANSI standards, 0641 and 0620, our installation standard. And then below those are 100, 200, and 300 materials. What's not on here, and why it's you get your bonus here for showing up today, we have a new standard that has been approved through the ANSI process. It's awaiting publication, and it's going to have an effective date of August 15th, 2021. And that is our collaboration standard that we have written with SMA, with Stair Manufacturer Association. And so stairs, handrails, and components has been finalized and done. And so you will hear more about that. And hopefully you'll see a publication date here by the end of the month. So looking forward to adding to our suite of standards yet again. Here's the one that we are here to talk about today, because we recognize how much casework is on a job percentage-wise. And so obviously this is one that spoke to a lot of our members. And so we're out sharing the word and trying to get it correct. We said making great better. We believe in our standard, our performance standard, and the new opportunities that exist in it, but that is not without our partnership with the quality certification program. For those of you who are specifiers and or might be aware of what that program is, I'm going to reiterate to those who are like, hey, I've never heard of that. What might that be? And I learned earlier we actually have students on the call. So to anybody who doesn't know, the QCP is a body of inspectors who, when specified on a job, will go out and will verify that the job meets the requirements of the standard. That verification process starts very early on in shop drawings. The manufacturing facilities actually have in-house inspections to make sure that they are doing what they are saying. And then once the product is on site, the inspectors check it one last final time for gaps, tolerances, anything else that falls within the standard and your specifications. Obviously, our goal is when your project is complete, you are satisfied and happy with the results. I believe standard creation and standard development needs to work for three people. The first one is the owner or the end user. So as we look at this beautiful office space, did the end user, does it do what they expected it to do when they sat down with the design community and said, this is what I need? Number two, I think our standards need to work for the design community. They need to be that support agent that promises we deliver a product that will meet the need of the end user. And then number three, our standards need to work for manufacturers. And so to create an even playing field on bid day, to let everybody know an expectation of quality for our industry. And when you blend all three of those elements together and we harmonize, that's what I would call the perfect standard. Now, are we there? We're working towards it. And so that comes from input from all three of those parties. We just can't have one at the table in the process. And so I'm appreciative of the ANSI process. It requires a blended party. And so our group, I'm going to mess it up, but the names are general interest, users, and producers. I don't think I messed that up. So those are the three groups that our ANSI body requires us to keep a balance of in all of our processes. Here's again another nice shot of woodworking. And again, speaking to the design community and specifiers, you understand that this stuff just does not just happen, or otherwise we would go back to our tree swing picture of how somebody thought it was going to be something, but it actually ended up being this instead. So where to start with the new standards? Well, if you have not seen them, they are all laid out the exact same. They all purpose, scope, requirements. And when you hit requirements, they broke down into general, materials, structural, and aesthetics. I want to highlight this now in case somebody's wondering, man, I really loved the AWS2. that's fine. AWS2 was the foundation of a lot of this creation of material in terms of our tolerances and specifications. So when you see the aesthetic side of our standard, a lot of those values are just extracted straight from the AWS2 or very similar to some of those values. It's the structural aspect here that is new and provides opportunity for you, the designer, and for the manufacturer to produce with innovative ideas, materials, whatnot, because now they're not going off of a book that says you must and you can't. They're saying you must just perform to this level or to this value. And so you will see this commonality throughout our standard as we continue here. Our metrification policy is that metric will be first. Our mission vision statement says we will be the global leader. And in recognition of that, Imperial takes a back seat. And so it does cause for some weird numbers and some rounding. So we have what we call soft conversions when you see that in the standards. No need to panic. The intent is still the same. So for those of you who are familiar with the AWS2 and previous AWI standards, you look at the bottom of this page and you feel very comfortable. Custom, premium, economy. At the top, it's now structural, which is duty level 1, duty level 2, duty level 3, and duty level 4. We have provided typical applications so that some manufacturing's fear is, well, if you tell them 4 is the most durable, everybody's going to specify 4. Well, here's where we would ask you, the specifiers and design community, to really work with the owner and say, what is the best end use for this thing so that you can maximize the dollars on a project? One easy thing for that is, let's take the waiting room of a lobby of a law firm. In that waiting room, there's typically a nice piece of casework or a nice piece of furniture there. But more than likely, it might only hold a vase of flowers or 2 magazines on it. Not going to go through a bunch of wear and tear. But they probably want it to look very, very nice and reflect their values of a company. So in that given case, for that one room, you could specify duty level 1 because you don't really need a lot of structural integrity and properties to it, but you want premium grade, you want that ultimate book match layup pattern, whatever it may be, high gloss finish, etc. Now take that example in reverse. Most buildings, facilities have a janitor's closet. And if you don't just put traditional shelving in there, you might require some sort of casework back there. Well, if that's the case, you know that it could be loaded down. So you could be looking at a duty level 3 or duty level 4, but very, very few people are going to care actually the way that it actually looks, because they know it's going to be abused with chemicals in and out of the cleaning pantry, or dragging copy paper in and out of a shelf, whatever it may be. And so in that case, you'd be looking at duty level 3 or 4, and then you're like, hey, let's make the most of this. All I need is economy grade back there in back of house. So just some quick examples. I know you can pick all those apart, but I'm trying to speak broadly here to an audience to understand the value that you have in this standard, because the old method, if we're honest about ourselves, in premium, custom, and economy grade in the AWS2 standard, there was little, if any, difference in the construction methods and materials, and it was all about the exterior face. So if you wanted that premium look, finish, etc., you had to go premium grade. That was built like a tank and it would last for 70 years. But that might not have been important to you, holding a vase and 2 flowers out there in the waiting room. So things to think about. Hopefully spur some ideas, some thoughts that are possible within the new standard. The new default is duty level 3. So if you specify the standard, but you forget to add the line of, hey, what structural performance do I need? We have taken care of you in the standard, and we have set a default. Just like in the AWS2, the default was a custom grade. And so we have set duty level 3 and custom grade in the new standard, should the specifier not do those things. All right, so there is a slide that verifies that I knew what I was talking about. And so that one sums that up. All right, materials and manufacturing. The AWS2 said only these materials qualify. Well, we recognize, and you as specifiers know better than us, that the new materials entering the market are enormous. There's new materials entering, virtually every day, or different types or different applications of that material. And so the new standard does not restrict what type of materials or your manufacturing methods. Also realizing there's innovation in machinery. Sometimes there's quicker, stronger ways to do things that maybe we haven't necessarily thought of or written to a standard. So with the new standard being performance-based, again, the sky is the limit as long as the performance is there. And so we do know in our initial testing that we find there is a difference, and not all joinery performs the same across different material types. The screw holding power of one type of material versus the other, the glue surface and how well glue bonds to a certain material, all have effects on how casework and cabinetry have performed in our testing that we have done to date. And so it has been very, very interesting. And I'm sitting here, thinking of the specifications, and what I will call the traditional way of doing it is the specifiers list out the core type, and then they'll even go as far as to list the joinery type and the methods that's done. The new standard allows for a new approach because at some point we would ask the question, do you know exactly why or what the properties of that joinery is, and does that meet the expectations that you are looking or expecting for on a project? So I've talked about performance, and we say, well, how does it all perform? And we're going to actually go through these test methodologies a little bit deeper here on this. So I'm going to be quick on these slides, but there truly are testing performances here that we are loading up cabinets, and these are real pictures and real videos of trying to put a cabinet under load or under stress to make sure that it will perform and that it is ready for a real life application. The picture you see here on the right is our upper cabinet test, and you can see we hang 120 pounds off each door as part of the test, symbolic if someone was pulling themselves up on a countertop or something of that nature. We know that never happens. When you guys design casework, they always just get used for storage only. And also, you can see there that we recognize people store stuff on top of the casework as well. So you're seeing here a WC1 on your right, and you're seeing a WC2 on your left. One is purely structural, and the other one is more of a performance style test. So there's what happens when failure takes place on an upper cabinet. And then anytime you see our drawer reports, I'll just say this now, and I hope you're taking good notes, but anytime you see our drawer reports, that is always test to failure. On the cabinet side, we don't want to see the failure. Those are pass fail. They are not test to failure, but the drawer boxes, every time you see them, they should be broken in the testing process. So there is the drawer fronts and the drawer bottoms, and more of the same. So then why I said the drawer fronts and drawer bottoms are tested to failure, you can see the chart here that we actually, our machine labels its top peak performance here. And there is the max load of this one, happens to be 618 pounds before it failed. And so that's what we're looking for, those exact values there. Now this slide is very interesting, and I hope your screen is big enough that you can see it. This is some kind of did you know? And I find it rather interesting. And these are real testing values based upon our test. Now, if we were to live, I would love to interact with you at this point and have you raise your hand and say, who thinks that a solid dovetailed maple drawer box is the strongest drawer box out there? I, a traditional woodworker, would raise my hand and go, yeah, solid wood, dovetailed, lots of glue surface, great joinery, craftsmanship's been around forever. It's the best. Well, I hope you can see my cursor on the screen. If not, I would ask you to look right underneath the word pull in the title. This column right here is solid maple dovetail. And if you read down here at the bottom, this is all 1/2 inch material that we used in this testing. you can see all these values are all lumped together. The highest one was about 630 or so, I'm just guessing. And the lowest one here was probably at about 410, 412. You can see that it averaged a 456, and that is first failure. It measured in pounds. So then we scoot over and we're like, well, let's bump it up to 5/8 material. We love 5/8 drawer boxes. You know, they look meaty and they perform really, really well. Well, the top performing one here was just a tick over 800, or right around 800. And the lowest performing was right around 600. But in our test of 5, the average was right around about 7, or maybe the low here is 617. So that's the low value reported here in our numbers. Scoot over, and I'm blown away by this. You have a miter folded, and this miter fold happens to be particle board, 1/2-inch particle board miter fold. And I told you I'm a wood nerd. I apologize. You were warned, but this is my time to geek out here. So take a 1/2-inch miter folded particle board drawer box of our group of 5. The lowest one was a 762. You see that it didn't outperform all of the solid maple dovetail at 5/8, but it definitely outperformed the low. And you can see the grouping in relationship to each other. You can see that we switched to 3/4-inch material, the particle board, and we were finding values as high as 1,114 pounds before failure. And there was a couple of anomalies here at 772. So again, not quite surpassing that, but very close. But the overall pattern had us above that. You're like, Doug, why are you spending time saying all this? Well, again, in our specifications, do we care about the joinery aspect? And can you tell the difference between a miter fold and another joint that would allow no end grain to show, such as a French dovetail, if you would? Or are you just going for the aesthetic look of what that drawer looks like and how it performs? If I scoot over here, these dowel screws, and another name for that is a conformat screw, for those of you who might be familiar with that terminology. But a dowel screw, you look at, this is veneer core, 1/2-inch sides, 3/4-inch back, veneer core, 3/4-inch fronts, 3/4-inch sides, veneer core, 1/2-inch, 3/4-inch, etc. Look at these values. Every single value of using veneer core with the dowel screw is all higher than any value that we measured in the dovetail. And so, again, not that this is gospel and not that dovetail is awful and the worst thing ever, but the testing has allowed us to break some preconceived notions and perceptions about performance of joinery in the wood industry. So that's why I spend the time to share that with you. This is real values, real test that you can see all the drawer boxes we have tested.
Doug, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second.
Yeah, go ahead, Dick.
Question from the audience. Can we get a copy of this drawer front pull first break load slide? And Margaret responded that it's on the ASI website. So that question has been answered.
Okay. Well, I'm glad Margaret knew the answer to that one, because I did not. But I believe AWI is sharing this values and these tests. And so, yes, I would be happy to follow up with the individual who's requesting that. And but let me, these are just our values. We're going to go further, and hopefully I can encourage the audience to dig in and actually do the research of how we tested these things, so that there's some validity of, well, what kind of test are they doing? Well, I'll show you how to get there and hopefully allow you to make the most of it. All right. When I say it's testing, at this point, we say manufacturers, maximize your manufacturing efficiencies. There are people who have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in equipment to aid their process. But if our standard is limiting that or adding extra levels that don't add value, let's get it out. Let's get to a performance aspect side of things. So here's more on the testing level about our shelves. So then we take it as far as, let's test our shelves, how we're putting it in there and how they perform, because we also know that fails. This formula, if it looks familiar, it's straight out of the AWS2, and we have carried it forward into the new standard as well. And then we have allowed a quick legend here for MOE values. Again, this is just quick reference. You're going to need to do your math for the other ones because some of our, like duty level 4, I believe our pounds per square foot on a shelf is 65 pounds per square foot. So this will give you duty level 2 or 3, but you'll have to dig deeper for more.
Doug,
Here, yes, go ahead, Dick.
Sorry to interrupt. I want to go back to the drawer joints a bit. We had a question. How strong does a drawer joint really need to be compared to test results?
Yes, and that also is a great question that the technical committee has determined that. So I'm going to give that individual the short answer, and thank you for the smile. Out of all the drawer box tested, only one of them was duty level 2. The rest of the drawer boxes were deemed duty level 4. So to answer that question, essentially, all of these outperform what is actually deemed needed by industry and the technical committee who created the standard for public approval. So that also is a great question. But in going back to maximize dollars and value, if you know that that miter fold can perform at or higher the dovetail, and a manufacturer can tell you that I can make that miter fold, I'm making this up, so don't quote me to a manufacturer. I can make that in 30 seconds, but to make that dovetail drawer takes me 10 hours, and I'm exaggerating on purpose. Then obviously there is some savings there for you, the specifier or the design community, that you can apply those dollars somewhere else in the project to extract more value for the owner. So that's, again, how you can take and use some of this stuff to further your projects and get more intent out of the process.
We have a follow-up question regarding drawer construction.
Okay.
How can we correlate BHMA ratings of drawer glides to drawer construction to make sure we're not specifying drawers that fail before glides?
Yeah. We say we do not test drawer hardware because BHMA does that. Our standards does require level 2 hardware from BHMA. And so in the ANSI world, you can't have competing standards, and we look to form partnerships and not really go against BHMA in that at all. Instead, partner with them. So I can't answer the question of when the drawer slides fail. I do know that duty level 2 is the default in the standard. Of course, if anybody specifies something different, that is what takes precedence over our standard. The testing reports, these are intentional, that they are all produced through AWI. You can have testing done at any approved laboratory. I'm going to mess up the number. It's an ISO 17025 laboratory, AW or the equivalency recognized by AWI per the standard. But testing reports have to come through AWI, and that's honestly to help you, the design community, so that when you have one, they're formatted all the same, they read all the same, you can get to know the layout and become very comfortable with the information that's in there so that you can verify and confirm that you have what you need on a job. I'm going to go through one of these once the presentation is over. Here we are talking about hardware, and I say they are a part of our test, but we are not testing the actual hardware, such as the hinge you see on the left. You know, it's cycle tested by BHMA and has other properties. AWI, their test for that hardware, if that hinge is functioning, is on a lower cabinet, 100 pounds hung on the door, on an upper cabinet, 120 pounds hung on the door. Same way with the drawer slides. The drawer slides themselves, they just have to hold 100 pounds in a drawer, static, not dynamic. So we put the 100 pounds in there and then close the drawer for the test. Value and safety, performance with expectations. Obviously, the one on the left might have you a little scared, and then beautiful woodworking there on the right. Same thing here. Remember, performance, but aesthetics is an aspect of it. And so again, that still comes in the form of custom, premium, custom, and economy. And so we have said that premium is the highest degree of control of materials, workmanship, and manufacture. Custom is, again, the default, and it says define a high degree, and then economy grade is a minimum degree of control of materials, workmanship, and manufacture. And again, I say use it to your advantage for which portion of the job that you are on. This is a good test for specifiers of, do you know the language of the standard? And so we do use exposed exterior, exposed interior, semi-exposed, and then ultimately concealed when labeling material. I look at these pictures. Again, I wish we were in person. Let's focus on B. Who is responsible for B? Well, I'm going to be the bad guy, since especially we're not live, you can't throw tomatoes up me here at stage at me. B, who is responsible for B? That is the specifiers or the design community who specified the job. Now, I have a gut feeling that nobody said, this is what I really, really want it to look like when it's all said and done. Dick, I'm going to keep talking, but I'll ask the chat line if they will write in if they know as to why these results are what they are and why the specifier was responsible for it. So, and unfortunately, audience, I can't see the chat box right now, but I asked that question just to smile and see what kind of interaction we can have this morning. Dick, has anybody responded in that they know the why B ended up the way that it did?
No, we do have some folks who have responded the specifier was responsible.
Okay.
But again, we got to deal with the lag here a little bit.
All right. Well, here is the Doug nerd time that I will explain the why. B is the result of book match veneer. What happens, and for anybody who can't relate to me how veneer actually works, I would ask you, have you ever went to the store and bought a package of bacon? Because if you have done that, and this is how I used to teach it in class, if you bought a package of bacon at the store, you've essentially bought a flitch of bacon. We call it a flitch of veneer. You guys are very familiar with terminology, flitch and leaves, but in the bacon world, we just call it slices of bacon. But you can have some fun with it. That bacon was once one pork belly. Since I'm speaking to the Midwest, you guys get it. It's then sliced into whatever thickness of bacon you have chosen. Okay. Wood is the exact same way. It was once one tree. It's then sliced. Well, when you slice it, there becomes a front and a back of that piece. And in our world, it's tight-faced, loose-faced, knife side, not knife side, etc. But what you are seeing when you book match veneer, you get those alternating faces. Now, had that been slip matched or had it been swing matched, because there's not a lot of grain in it, so you could have done a swing, you never alternate faces. And so then this thing would have either ended up all the one dark color or B, the one light color. But that color variation was from switching faces on the veneer face. And what really causes that? Whether you add stain to it or not, individual light would have actually picked that up as well. Did anybody get that right, Dick?
We had some comments, yes.
All right. All right. Well,
polling with book match.
Yeah.
One comment that said, without knowing what was specified, how can you blame the specifier?
All right. See, there's where I get in trouble for having a good, sharp audience. So, well, thank you. I'm at the heart of it. I'm thankful to know that people are still listening and participating. So thank you again for making the most of the virtual conference and having fun together. We know in specifying, and as that person alluded to, sometimes specifying lumber with veneer is a challenge. And so the standard does speak directly to that and is looking to cover you when you are specifying a project. All right. What have I missed? Well, if I have missed something, I would encourage you to go to our website and check it out. Here's what I want to highlight on our website. The standards are free. If you didn't hear me one more time, all AWI standards are free. You don't even have to log in. Just go to our website, standards, and then all of our current ANSI and new book of AWI standards are free. And there are tools there to help you make the most of your experience. I'm going to put this up here on the screen. If you want to take a quick screenshot here, this is Hunter Morrison. He is our AWI technical director. It's his full-time job to help people with the standards. We enjoy that aspect of our job. And so I want you to take advantage of that and use AWI as a resource when you come across something with a standard or something on a project that you would like more clarification or some assistance on. And we're going to jump into, as promised, the testing reports and what that looks like. I want to go quick through the testing reports. I'll be intentional because I do have a spec here, and I want you to understand the importance of the spec and what that means to you, the design professional. Let me go quickly into, and forgive me, this is what the front cover looks like here. They will have all of our work on here. You can see that this is a performance quality test report, base cabinet battery, BC1 and BC2. And there's some elements there that we need to understand. And again, I'm going to go quickly. I apologize, but for sake of time, I want to spend time in the spec. So you open it up. It's meant to read like it will be print. Right now, we're not planning on doing them electronically due for security reasons and issues. But so it will read like a magazine. So you have the inside front cover of who we are. And then the stuff you're going to care about is, you know, who owns the rights to this report. And so this is a real report that AWI owns the rights to it. And then you are able to grant the use rights to one individual. So the Woodworking Corporation here in Springfield, Oklahoma could not turn around and re-grant this to somebody else. They don't own the rights to do so. But so you're going to see hopefully your company that you're dealing with, their name here, or they could be the original rights holder if they have a proprietary method, which we have tested companies, and I do know those exist. Here's the date it issues. Here's the date it expires. These reports are only good for 1 year because as a part of this report, they have to verify annually. They have to pass an inspection that they are still producing casework in this fashion. What we modeled it after was the UL system in sheetrock, and they are actually verified 4 times a year. Our membership was not ready for that change, that dramatic, and so we're thankful to get to 1 year and verifying that people are doing what they say they're doing in the form of following the test methodology. All right, over here on our left is a quick summary of both BC1 and BC2. And you can see in the BC1, it's functionality. In BC2, it's 100% structural. Will the joinery, the integrity of it be maintained? All right, on page 3 here we see our designation. This construction method is duty level 4. We used 3/4 inch particle board grade M2 for every component except the back is 1/4 inch hardboard and the shelf is 1 inch particle board M2 to do so. You can see it passed BC1, BC2. Again, these are pass-fail tests, not test to failure. You go, well, how much is appropriate? Somebody was asking on the drawers. I'll tell you here. This BC2 test, there is 1,900 pounds that was loaded and left on this cabinet for 24 hours. And then it gets 1 hour to adjust back or stress relief, whatever term you would like to use. And then the tolerances are measured and it's inspected for pass fail. On the BC1, you can see that there's 665 pounds put on top. There was 345 pounds put on the shelf. There was 50 pounds put in each drawer, and there was 100 pounds put on each door, which I made mention of previously. Here's what it looks like in the actual test of what was going on before, during, and after the unloading. And then here's the BC2 before, during, and after the unloading. Here's the technical stuff and how it's actually engineered. So people start saying, do I need to put my vertical or horizontal sections in my shop drawings? Well, some people are worried about if their method's proprietary, how's that shared to other subs and job sites and etc. Or do they just submit this to you, the design professional, and say, here's how we will fabricate all of our stuff to the nth degree, and this is the joinery that we will use throughout the job site. So it goes on after that. Next up is how it's installed. So here's the actual installation instructions that the company can provide. These happen to be the AWI default, since this is an AWI method. And that's exactly how it will be inspected and looked upon, measured in the job site. Here's just some photographs captured throughout the process. And then, so you don't have to go to another thing, here's the actual test methodologies that it was measured against. So here is the BC1. I don't have time today, but I will tell you these test methodologies are free on the AWI website. Remember when I said, hey, the drawer box, you can go look how it's actually tested. This is the exact thing that walks you through exactly the fixtures, the specimens, the size requirements, all the components required, etc. It goes through an acclimation and some pre-measurements ahead of time. There is the pre-testing. And then we get into how to actually load. You saw these values in the front, but again, just quickly, duty level 1 is 45 pounds per square foot. Duty level 2 is 70 pounds. Duty level 3 is 90. Duty level 4 is 115 pounds for this BC1 test.
Doug, we have a
Yes.
question. Are test reports available for all 4 duty levels?
They are currently not. So what happens is when we rolled this program out, we started with a duty level 4 so that we knew that anybody would be compliant for any job specification. We are in the process, though, of developing more duty levels at this time. So, and then I can't speak to the companies who have already chosen to have proprietary testing and the duty levels that they chose and achieved. We have a rule in place that we cannot discuss those, but there are some of those out there that exist. So I can't say that industry-wide nobody has it, but I will say what AWI is offering free of charge to our membership. No, we currently do not. We have duty levels 3 and 4 that we can assist members with today if they needed, but there's more on the membership side of things coming out here. It'll be in a week or less that our members will learn some new benefits towards this testing side of things. And that is a great question to ask, because if a guy bids or a company bids a job and they say, hey, we got it, and they only have duty level 4, and you, the design community, comes back and go, hey, I'd like to change my specs to make this a duty level 1. And then now I want some savings back because I know that you're making it cheaper. They might not be making it. I shouldn't use that word cheaper. They're making it geared towards the specifications is what I should say. And so they're saying, hey, where's my savings? Well, the mill worker may come back and say, I only have this one test. If you want duty level 1, I can engineer and design something for it, but I'm going to have to pay to get those testing done and whatnot. So that might not be in place. But what could be in place is prior to bid day, one manufacturing company might own the rights to duty level 4 because that covers everything. And one company might have spent the investment and done the initial work and owned the rights to a duty level 1. Well, that duty level 1, they might be able to save 15 minutes per box on the job by the methods or means made of constructing it. So in their overall estimate, that one who has spent the money for the duty level 1 or the research and engineering might be able to outbid someone who's having to build it to a duty level 4 criteria. So I hope that makes sense and explains it from the manufacturer's standpoint, but also understands the design community. In efforts to go quick, here's duty level 2. Not duty level 2, BC2, which is the second test as part of the battery. Again, I said this one is 100% purely structural. We're stressing this joint down here at the bottom. Essentially, there's some other stress going on, but this is the main point of failure on a base cabinet. You can see 330 pounds per square foot. I already told you the numbers, 1,900 pounds is what rests on there in this test. And again, there's plenty of disclaimers, and I want to say this. Those are testing values that we have baseline data to go against. It is not meant to be a performance value or intended use value of the cabinets. Now, let's jump into the specification as promised here, and we will continue this journey. We have here a master spec templated specification. I want to be very clear, and I want you to know a little bit of the background of where this came from. We had an architect from a state out west who said, we want help rewriting our spec template. And so would you assist us? And so it is geared towards AWI. I'll be very clear and honest about that. But if nothing else, I hope it allows you to spur thoughts of how spec writing might change or be different with the new standard. And again, when I give these presentations, I learn too. So if I say something today or something where you're like, hey, what about this? Please let us know in the chat box. I would like to learn and hear that aspect so I can learn during today's presentation as well. So here is, and we have all the hidden text turned on. So that's all the blue that you're seeing. Hopefully this is all very, very familiar in the world that you live in. I'm used to looking at it in page view. And so since I've got it zoomed in here, I can't necessarily see what's coming. So bear with me. Anything in yellow is stuff that we added. So of course, when given the opportunity, we said, hey, we would highly recommend the AWI quality certification program labels to shop drawings, and that the program participates in the QCP aspect of things. Again, the standards are one thing. The quality certification is just that reassurance that they actually followed the standard and you're getting exactly what you specified. I'm going to keep scrolling to highlight some things of how the new standards affects this. So here is, and I have learned this, that specifiers say, Doug, I don't like the words latest edition. We would never use that. And I think I learned in a presentation that they said, hey, we actually have covered ourselves in section 000 or section 100 of general statements that says all standards specified in here must use latest edition. So I have learned that along the way. But again, I just opened up the old format here. But jumping down, so after what you say, hey, use the AWI standards, now that puts you in the 0641 because it's been effective since June of 2020. June 1st of 2020 is when that 0641 standard became effective. So here on B, in the standard template, you used to say default grade and you had to choose premium, custom, and economy. But now we have added a default level of 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so then we added some language, grade or duty level specification by product shall supersede grade or duty level. So here's what we mean by that. The weakest link is what the component is measured as. So remember on the test, we had and let's just stick with base cabinets. We had a base cabinet test, we had a drawer test, and we had a shelf suspensions test. So assuming that your base cabinet had a drawer and a shelf, you need all three of those tests. Well, if your cabinet is a duty level 4 and your drawer box is a duty level 4, but your shelf turns out to be a duty level 1, the whole entity as a product is deemed as a duty level 1. The weakest link is the denominator that will carry. And so, again, when you see some language getting down into shelves and drawers, we say equal to the specified duty level. And so what we're meaning is if you specify duty level 3 for a box, then your drawer box has to be 3 or higher, and your shelf suspension system needs to be 3 or higher, is what we were saying there. Dick, and let me know if there's questions, because I'm hoping this is in the sweet spot where people care. And so let me know what I can do.
We had a question. Is this section 0641?
I believe that this is plastic laminate, so it's 06 or it's 064116, just to be very, very specific here in what we were writing. And I suppose you can see that right there at the bottom of the page. But I would say it definitely applies to woodworking, and here's why. And this is the part that I spoke about earlier. And I want you to understand how spec writing could be different, or teach me how I can work alongside you to improve our process. But right here in the drawer construction, it used to say fabricate with exposed front fasteners with subfront and mounting screws from interior of the body. Okay, does that really matter to you, the specifier, or does the words performance duty level shall meet or exceed casework specified duty level? And that's what I was talking about. If it was a 3, it has to be 3 or higher. Do you, the specifier, are you interested in that exact detail, or are you interested in a system that you know meets or exceeds your specification? Because if you're interested in the system, then that allows the manufacturer a range. We said, we know we have 23 drawer boxes, and 21 of them, 22 of them fit duty level 4, and then the one anomaly is duty level 2. So that would give the manufacturer some flexibility to allow you to put money back in the project because they're able to provide a drawer box that they know that they can manufacture efficiently and meet your requirements, but didn't have to change their process based upon an exact level of specificity in the specification. That's a mouthful this morning. My apologies. So again, the old spec went as far as to say join subfronts, backs, and sides with, and then you chose glued rabbeted joints supplemented by mechanical fasteners or glued dovetail joints. Again, if you were just working off the template and those were the only two, you would never choose the dowel screw. You would never choose the miter fold. You would never choose the fill in the blank of the innovation that can happen in a performance standard. So again, if you're interested in a system that knows performs, does this matter to you? Now, the thing that I personally, when I look through this, and we'll get to this later on material, is if you want the aesthetic value of a certain joinery, then I get it that you add it in here. But if that's not, if you were specifying a French dovetail versus a miter fold, you're going to see that exact same joint up against the face of something. It's going to appear from an outsider to look identical. So things to think about. Notice here that it says patterns and finishes. You know, I would, to make this better, and I can't remember if it's down in the materials, there's nothing here that talks about the aesthetics of the drawer box. So my important aspect here to highlight is, again, if we say duty level shall meet or exceed, give us an aesthetic of it should be white melamine, or it should be wood veneer, or it should be a wood grain. So then that allow for veneer or solid wood, because we saw the veneer cord joinery, etc. So whatever that may be, I think that level needs added in here. Here we get into materials. The wood moisture, again, this is too short. I'd love to do a follow-up with this group, but our new website has a calculator that you don't have to guess what zip code you're in. We can get wood moisture content down to a zip code level using the resources on our website. Here's the next level of the spec. Again, this is me not knowing your world, but do you necessarily care that the job underneath the face material, is it MDF or is it particle board? Or is it ag board, or is it whatever? As long as the performance is there and proved in testing, does that have value on the job to make somebody switch? Because a manufacturer might have their proprietary method tested in just particle board, and then the specification reads MDF only. Well, then that manufacturer is now not compliant and would have to retest their cabinetry, etc. Or are you, the design professional, just interested in a system that says, hey, it's duty level 3? Now, this still allows for, if you say, I need it to get me some lead credits and I need it to be NAUF. Well, there's still grade 2 particle board that's NAUF that would still work for that job and the criteria of the testing reports.
Margaret, answering some questions about, there's a question, do the tests evaluate long-term performance? And she responded that yes, they simulate long-term performance.
Well, I would say that the tests are a 24-hour cycle test. That is it. That's how I would answer that test. So I'd say long-term performance, like, do I know that cabinet will last 30 years? I can't honestly answer that because I also don't know what type of load was it under for 30 years. So
that's the next question. Does long-term performance include potential warpage due to environmental moisture?
Well, okay, so the moisture aspect would be different than the performance of the cabinet, but again, being a wood nerd and being in a room of professionals who get it, and I'm thankful, obviously humidity plays a major factor in that. And so, you know, making sure stuff is sealed appropriately, edges are taken care of, etc. I could do a whole nother fun series on that, just based upon the innovation of EVA glue versus PUR glue in an edge bander. And that I will do my best not to geek out here, but there are great conversations and stuff that, again, this is innovation of adhesives and new machinery and material types that either slow or reduce the amount of moisture content change and swing based upon the adhesion of the edge banding. So good stuff. I appreciate the question. And to answer the question about relationship of wood moisture versus longevity, obviously our specifications say it must be in a controlled environment. And you and I both know the reality that people shut off their ACs in the summer and try and save money on the heat in the winter, etc. And some of these environments go through dramatic swings. And when you put a wood product under that stress, we know the outcomes of it, unfortunately. So on the concealed hinge aspect, we ask for this range because we say, does the professional or specifier really care that that door only opens 105 versus 110? But what's happening on our back end is cabinet hardware sold in 105. And so someone might buy 1,105-degree swing hinges. Well, then the next job comes in and it's 110. Does that 5 degrees of functionality make the difference to the end user? And so for here, we offered ranges of hinges 100 to 120, 135, and then 165 to 170 in recognizing the different applications. Jumping down here to the shelf standards. Again, this falls under almost identical to the drawers. It's a complete rethink of how this works, but we just say shelf standards and supports. Rather than specifying exactly what they are, just say performance duty levels shall meet or exceed casework specified, period, because the weakest link is going to be what the entity is labeled. Shelf rest, so spoon bill clip, plastic double pins, nylons, continuous bar, whatever it is that you like to specify. Again, the thing that I say that is missing here, if you just did shelf rest, performance duty level shall meet or exceed casework, you have left something open for me. You might get clear plastic clips and you go, Doug, I don't want clear plastic clips. I wanted the brown plastic clips. Okay. So you might put a value of aesthetics in here, nickel plated. Okay. So now that tells me I need a duty level 3 nickel plated something. It could be continuous bar. It could be spoon bill. It could be double pin, whatever it may be. But that's kind of, again, trying to think at how to specify a system rather than multiple levels. Because if you come down here and you specify a spoon bill clip and you specified up top plywood core, I can tell you in all of our testing, we know that we have known failures. What happens is that spoon bill clip pulls out the first layer of the plywood core when it becomes cantilevered, and there's no face value material there, and it just simply falls to the ground and causes cascading issues with that shelf. So the combination of those two, not good. You take that same spoon bill clip and use it in a different core material, you get different results, and you are still able to use it. So it can't make a blanketed statement that says this shelf rest is not appropriate. You can only say this shelf rest does or does not work in combination of this material. And so it again allows for innovation, flexibility, but it has to be specified in such as that, because if you wrote something here, you said shelf rest must be toothpicks, well then, but you said duty level 4 everywhere else, you're going to contradict yourself, because we're not going to get to a duty level 4 using toothpicks to hold a shelf up.
Doug.
Yep.
Do you know if BHMA tests shelf standards to match AWI's performance duty levels?
I do not know the answer to that because we say we're testing the shelf, the way it's attached, and the board material all at the same time. So I do not know enough about BHMA's test to say yes or no, but I would say that I don't think we do would be the answer to that. But you've given me some homework to study up on that a little bit further. All right. Our old standard did not allow for contact cement on plastic laminate. And so you can see that we have added contact cement here for bonding and plastic laminate. Anytime you have curved work or that kind of stuff, we recognize that there are ways to do it using PVA or urea, but from a manufacturing standpoint or on-site repair or those sorts of things, oftentimes the contact of cement is more than appropriate. Lastly, this template used to have, I'm going to say like 7 or 8 bullets of how to install something. Again, the way to clean this up and to make it simplistic from a specifier standpoint, I'll delete the language out of here that I was requested to delete out. But to clean it up, rather than give the 8 or 9 or 10 things you can or can't do, just says installation grade specifications by product shall supersede default grade. All that means is everything in the back of my testing report of how it was installed, it has to be installed in that fashion to achieve the duty level that was said to achieve in the overall testing report. So there are hundreds of more things that I could talk about. We didn't even get to the website. Thank you for your participation and listening today. As I leave you with this, this is our AWI website. As I said, all of our standards are free. So if you come over here to the Casework, this is the real actual standard that you would pay money for otherwise. I'll tell you quickly some of the tools here and why we did this. I bet this has never happened to any of you, but a manufacturer or somebody who's trying to present something in their favor has just copied or clipped a certain piece of the standard. Well, we've made that easier for everybody, including you, the design professionals. Number one, on every page, you can bookmark it so that you can always get here in a hurry. Number two, you can download it. It is not meant to download and to be a pretty print. We want this to be a live document on the website. The download is meant if you're on a job site and you don't have internet access, you can go outside the building, download the portion you need, come inside, and then execute, the tolerance or enforce the standard, whatever it is that you may be. But the one that I like to point out here is you can send this standard to anybody via email. And as soon as my email is closed, so it didn't open up during the presentation, but as soon as I click this right here, it's going to open my Outlook. It's going to put a link and all I do is provide an email address. I can send somebody very, very specific. I can send them to this exact location of performance of drawers by simply coming up here and copying and pasting this exact link. And it's going to take them to 334 drawers. When you open that, it will take you directly there. All right. I want to back up and show you, and again, highlighting how it works. There is the scope, purpose, requirements, general material aesthetics, figures, supplemental information. There's a great thing here that says design professionals' responsibilities. We have tried, I doubt we've got them all, but we have tried to give you a list of everything that you may need to specify. And there is that veneer and slicing that we talked about and matching that we talked about earlier. So there we go. Lastly, in closing, if you go to this testing overview page right here and you say, hey, Doug, you talked about all of these items that were approved and whatnot. Here are the cabinets that you could click on and we could build a dowel or conformat cabinet out of particle board, MDF, or veneer today. And we know those are duty level 4 cabinets. We are working with membership to share more of these. You can see for the drawer boxes, all those are duty level 4 that I spoke about. And then you see the shelf support aspect of things. This right here, where it says test methodologies, click here. You do have to, it's free. They're a free download, but it's going to take you to an area where you will need to log in or prove that you're a customer. Again, logging in on the AWI website or producing that customer thing is free. And so please don't panic. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. So Dick, I would like to thank you and George for setting this up and allowing AWI the opportunity. If you have time, please stop by and see Margaret in the booth. And hopefully we can be that resource and partnership with you on your next project. So appreciate everybody's time today and thank you.
Thank you, Doug. That was a wonderful presentation, very informative, and it generated a whole lot of comments. And
we're most of them kind.
Mostly.
Okay. All right. I have done this long enough to know that not everybody perspective might be the same. And I appreciate those comments, and we'll be honest, because they help me learn my perspective and allow me to dig deeper and answer some more questions. So
Again, thanks everyone for attending. We had a great turnout. Over 50 people signed in on this session, according to my screen. We will have a 15-minute break, and our next session will start at 11 o'clock.